Welcome back to Inside the Game with CNHI Sports. I'm George Bremer of CNHI Sports Indiana, and we'll get right to the news this week in Boston with CNHI Sports' Bill Burt. Now we're joined for our weekly spot with Bill Burt. And Bill, interesting divisional playoff week. I don't know if there was a really big surprise out there. Tampa Bay got the upset on paper, but I think people knew going in that was a possibility. What's your takeaway from the four games we saw last weekend?
Well, first, let's go to the upset that didn't happen, Cleveland and Kansas City. Cleveland's got to win that game. When he's out in the third quarter, Cleveland's got to win that game. I know everyone's positive about Cleveland, but to give up that running play basically setting up the play, the quarterback sneak, basic quarterback escape there, that doesn't happen. They have a chance. But let's be honest, this is what we got, really, what probably are the four best teams. Arguably, you could flip-flop Tampa and New Orleans. So in retrospect, down on New Orleans, which I was sort of up on New Orleans for a while. I think we saw Drew Brees just wasn't himself. You could see why he's retiring. Sort of like Peyton Manning at the end, his arm strength just isn't there, and it's just not the same. It's not the same guy from 3 years ago. If it was, they would win the Super Bowl. If Drew Brees was like, say, Tom Brady at the end of his career, I honestly like New Orleans to win it all, or at least maybe with the Kansas City or Buffalo. But look, Tampa Bay did what I haven't seen them do. They basically played tough football, and that's what's going to win now. So, and I still don't trust Bruce Arians. I wrote a column that's coming out all over CNHI, sort of trashing, I don't know, trashing, but jabbing Belichick in the Patriot way, whatnot. And what he basically didn't mention was, I do have 20 years of Belichick's labor here at quarterback that I don't even have to worry about. And so, but basically, Tampa against Green Bay is very interesting. If you ask me, I would say Green Bay, this is now, the yellow brick road is there for them. This isn't an easy game per se, but they should win this game if they play the way we think they've played, and really the way they've played for most of the year, which has been solid football, a little tougher. It took Aaron Rodgers a year to accept not throwing the ball as much as he really wanted to, and playing defense and ball control and field position management. And he's always been against that. He's like Marino. I want to throw the ball. Running the football. There's options. It'll make you a better quarterback. So that side, I agree. On the other side, Buffalo's interesting team. We'll talk about who we think's going to win, but Buffalo is, and we talked about this 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, really 2 months ago. Watch out for the Bills, and we're still saying it.
No, absolutely. I think Buffalo is perfectly built to beat Kansas City. I mean, teams that do that well, they can run the ball. It's not their greatest strength, but they can do it. They can go on longer drives if they need to and milk the clock. But they've also got a quarterback in Josh Allen who can make the big plays. And I think that's the thing. People always want to say, well, run the ball, keep it away from Patrick Mahomes. And obviously there's an element of that goes into play. But if you don't have that playmaker yourself who can go out there and get those big plays, those big yards and big moments, then more often, it's what we saw last year with San Francisco and Kansas City. San Francisco for 3 quarters dominates that Super Bowl. And the fourth quarter, here comes Patrick Mahomes. Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't match him, and the 49ers lose the game. I think Josh Allen is a guy that can match him. He can make those plays. I'm not necessarily saying Buffalo will win. I think they've got everything they need. They've got a defense that's not dominant, but definitely can slow you down, can make big plays. They can do a lot of things on offense, and they have that playmaker under center. I think Buffalo's definitely somebody to watch this weekend.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Buffalo. And I believe Kansas City, this has been my theme. I'm running out of weeks, but my Kansas City theme is they're playing with fire. And Cleveland is a decent team. Obviously going forward could be a team to watch. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I just think playing with fire has caught up to them. And the Bills are tough, and I got to give them credit. And what impressed me about them is that this has been not a meteoric rise, but a gradual figure it out. And they belong. And they added a player. They added Stephon Diggs. Their defense is very good. They get two very good corners, one elite corner. They're tough to run on. And that's the defensive side of the ball, which I think we don't talk about often because there's so much great offensive players and quarterbacks. But I think that's where Buffalo might have the edge here against Kansas City. And look, I'm 100% sure Patrick Mahomes is playing. There's no chance here. Save this. No chance he doesn't play. And it was a weird concussion what he got, but he is going to be back. Now, will he be 100%? Is he going to be a little fearful of the hits? I don't know. I just think their luck runs out. When I say luck, playing with fire.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think Kansas City's been walking that tightrope all year long. They got the escape against Cleveland. I think it was good for them that their defense stepped up and made some plays late in that game, just for their confidence moving forward. But I think Buffalo's got the advantage on that side. I'm going to stick with Kansas City. They're my preseason pick. But I think that game's going to be outstanding, and I definitely won't be surprised either way.
Yeah, it's funny because you could say the same about the other game. And I'm going with Green Bay. Now, I watch Tom Brady. I do have this, I still look at him as a Patriot, and I would like to see him go to a Super Bowl, even though that would probably push this discussion, him and Belichick. It's sort of a tired discussion, but he is great. And look, 99% of New Englanders wanted Brady to stay, but the relationship was very complex. It had deteriorated over the last 3 or 4 years, going back to drafting Jimmy Garoppolo. It just wasn't the same. And so that's why we're at where we're at. And I think New England fans are worried. Brady wins a Super Bowl, it sort of kills sort of the narrative of the Patriots being this Belichick who's still here and Brady who's gone. So that's something that we're going to have to deal with here in New England. But I just think Green Bay is a very good team. Aaron Rodgers, this is it. This is your last opportunity to become a 2-time Super Bowl champ. It's not happening after this. The bottom is rising. Teams are getting better. And I'm not saying you won't be in the mix, but you are the number 1 seed. This is your year. You better win.
No, I agree. I think he's got that hunger in his eye. I don't know if I've seen that the last couple playoff trips for him, but it just seems like he's got a little bit more determination, a little bit more focus. I think Green Bay wins that game. I think it's going to be another really close game.
Yep.
I'm really excited about Championship Sunday. I think we're going to get 2 really good football games.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I'm going to go with I'm picking Green Bay because I don't trust Tampa Bay either. So I'm going against the teams. I don't trust I don't trust Kansas City, and I don't trust Tampa. Now I could be wrong, and I'm just going to go with my gut on both of them. But would not be shocked if Brady has a big game. If it's in the fourth quarter and Tampa's down 3 or 2 points with 2 minutes to go, a minute and a half to go, you know what? I'm going to say Brady will win this game. But if Green Bay can get control, get a 10-point lead, 8-point, just keep the lead, make them run after you. Make them, if they're going to start throwing the ball all over playing 7-on-7, that will play right into Green Bay in Green Bay when it's going to be really chilly.
Yeah, I think the big thing for Green Bay is ball control. You saw the Saints turnovers killed them on Sunday. When you look back at the regular season meeting and Tampa get the big win against Green Bay, that's how they did it. Intercepting Aaron Rodgers, getting those takeaways. That's what this defense feeds off of. I think it's critically important for Green Bay to protect the football. I think if they do that, I think the Packers win. If that Bucs defense gets hot and they start getting those takeaways, I think you can see a completely different outcome.
The crazy one would be Buffalo having to face Tom Brady in a Super Bowl. Brady's just owned that poor city up in upstate New York, and that would be fun. And it would be the storylines would be crazy. I'd be probably leaning towards Buffalo, but again, we know Buffalo going back to the 90s, and they lost 4 in a row, and it's poor me. So, everything always works out against us. The Patriots get all the breaks, and they've had that mentality. I don't think they have it anymore, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, they got to go out and prove it. One thing all four of these teams have in common is outstanding play at the quarterback position. They're all at different ages. The younger guys in the AFC, the more experienced guys in the NFC, but they're all playing at a high level. That's really what it takes in the NFL these days. I don't think we're breaking any news here, how important that position is. The Colts here in Indianapolis on the day we're filming this on Wednesday, the announcement came down. Philip Rivers is stepping away. They're looking for a quarterback this offseason. The Patriots up there in your neck of the woods looking for a quarterback this offseason. The Bears are probably looking for a quarterback this offseason. I assume the Saints are looking for a quarterback this offseason. Should we be interested in how this quarterback market's going to play out?
Absolutely. It's, there are options. I mean, usually you could say, the Patriots are drafting 15th overall, so they're going to have a shot maybe at Mac Jones. Other than that, if they don't trade up, and I think they might even have to trade up because I see Carolina coming in at number 8 because Teddy Bridgewater is a very good backup quarterback. And they know they need to get a franchise guy. I don't know if they think it's Mac Jones, but 1 year, maybe you keep Bridgewater around for a year and let Mac Jones learn from him. You don't throw him, he's only had 1 really year of experience playing, sort of like what Joe Burrow had in LSU. And there's a learning curve there. But there are so many options with veterans. The problem is everyone talks about Stafford leaving and guys moving. It's hard because there's also dead cap money and cap space, and it's not so simple. Like getting Wentz, you trade for Wentz, you're going to eat $25 million a year for the next 4 years in contract, but you're not going to get, Billy's got 30-something, 40 in dead cap money. So there's a lot of complex issues there. But I will say, there's guys. If you want to win, and I'm talking about be very good, Jimmy Garoppolo could be available. That's interesting for New England. Personally, I'm not a big Jimmy Garoppolo guy. I mean, I like him. I think he's good. He had a chance to win the Super Bowl last year. And look, they almost won the game, but Patrick Mahomes came through, and he didn't. And it shows you the importance of having an elite quarterback because most of the time, you're going to have to win a game in the fourth quarter losing. That's just what happens in football. And guess what? Brady's come through many, many times. Peyton Manning's come through many, many times. Even Philip Rivers, who's leaving, and we got to salute Philip Rivers. Is he a Hall of Famer? It's a close call. I'm not 1,000% sure. Is I guess Eli Manning that he's won 2 Super Bowls. He's probably had he's finished about 500 overall. I see Philip Rivers is probably about 30 games over 500. Never missed a game. Never missed a game. And the same with Eli Manning, other than getting pulled, never missed a game. It's funny, these old stand-up quarterbacks who throw the ball, they don't, you can win with them because they throw the ball away. So I don't know. We're sort of going over the map here, but I salute Philip Rivers. What he did in Indianapolis was no small order, and it was the move was ridiculed. He was even ridiculed at the beginning of the year, and he showed in the end that he's a pretty good player.
No, he was huge, and they had a 4-win improvement, and I think he changed everything about that offense. Last year they couldn't get a big play to save their lives. I think they were 2nd or 3rd in the league this year in explosive pass plays, 20 yards or more. Obviously he wasn't fully Philip Rivers as he was during his heyday, but like a lot of these guys, like Tom Brady's done, like Aaron Rodgers is learning to do, he's learned to win in different ways, and he went out there and he made plays every week. One of his best games was his last game against Buffalo. And I think that's a great way for him to go out. It'll be interesting. He's always going to be a Charger, obviously 16 years there. But I think he won over a lot of people here in Indianapolis because, like you said, it was really Frank, he was needed here.
Yeah, Frank Reich is a good coach. I'm going to be on. I'm all in with him. I like him. I like his style. We're going to see long term how he does. A lot of these players, guys, and I'm not sure he's strictly a players coach. Their window is 3 or 4 years, and all of a sudden, players aren't getting paid, and they're not happy. They're not winning. How do you do when you go 7 and 9? Can you keep the team together to rebuild and do something else? So we're going to find out. But look, what are the Jets going to do? Are they going to trade Tua? Is Miami going to get rid of Tua? So are those guys going to be available? Maybe. And there's 3 or 4 potential. I'm not saying they are franchise quarterbacks in the draft. So there's a lot of options. And if just like go back to Kansas City, they were drafting 27th overall, and they moved up to number 10. And they get all the credit in the world. Patriots got lucky with Tom Brady, but KC put a bullseye on Patrick Mahomes, and they traded a lot. They gave a first rounder and a first rounder for the next year to move up 16 spots, where you think is a lot, but lo and behold, one of the best moves probably the last 20 years. So other than Brady drafting him in the 6th round. So it's going to be fun talking about that, but the games here are also going to be fun. So we got a couple weeks to have some fun.
No, absolutely. A couple weeks here, and we'll lead up to the Super Bowl. And then, as we've already previewed, a really active offseason ahead. Thanks a lot for your time, Bill. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right. Best to the family.
Thanks, as always, to Bill. You can follow his New England Patriots coverage at Burt Talks Sports. You can follow my Indianapolis Colts coverage at GM Bremer. Now let's check in on the Big Ten with Elton Hayes and Kevin Brockway. Now we'll check in on the Big Ten with Elton Hayes and Kevin Brockway. And Kevin, I want to start with you because here in Indiana, I think one of the hottest teams in the Big Ten right now, the Purdue Boilermakers. Can you talk a little bit about what's working right now for Matt Painter and company? And then on the flip side of that, how Indiana's kind of heading in the opposite direction right now?
Yeah, I think with Purdue, it starts with Travion Williams, just having that big guy inside that commands a lot of attention. He's really improved. He's gotten looks like he's gotten a little bigger this year. I mean, he's 6'10", up from 6'8". And I thought in the Indiana game really made a big impact in the second half. And then the shooters around him, Sasha Stefanovic, Jaden Ivey, the freshman, hit a huge shot at the end of that game against Ohio State. So I think the combination of the big guy inside and them shooting the ball with a lot of confidence, moving the ball really well offensively. I know Matt is still not 100% happy with the defense. I think he feels like that there's room to grow there. But offensively, they're certainly firing on all cylinders. And as for Indiana, it's same song, different verse. Can't shoot free throws, can't shoot three-pointers. It's been an ongoing issue during Archie Miller's tenure, and they're going to have to figure it out. But Archie also thinks that there's been some defensive slippage as well there, and there has, particularly guarding the three-point line, has not been good the last 3 games, and they're giving up about 79 a game during that stretch.
Elton, basketball season finally resumed in Happy Valley. Got an unexpected month off there for the Nittany Lions. Where do they stand right now, and what's up with Coach Ferry and giving a little bit of money to the Big Ten this week?
Yeah, I was very surprised to see that the Big Ten handed down that fine, because after the Purdue game on Sunday, they got a technical. And he was asked about it in the post-game press conference. And I thought that he did a good job of dancing around it. He obviously said that he wasn't pleased with it, but, he harkened back to his many years of coaching and have seen a lot of things. But I think that he, I like when he was giving the answer, I was like, okay, I don't, see anything inflammatory with it. But yesterday we come to find out that they hit the school with a $10,000 fine. Last night after the loss to Illinois, he opened up the post-game press conference with a statement about it and just kind of left it at that and said he wasn't going to say anything more about it. He was very, he apologized to the school, to the fan base, to the Big Ten, to the officials, said he has the utmost respect for them, and that was it. But, if you're Penn State right now, this season, the way it started with Coach Pat Chambers being let go, resigning, and Jim Ferry taking over kind of at the last hour to having your season postponed for nearly a month. They played yesterday, or they played on Sunday, but that was the first game since their overtime Indiana loss on December 30th. They had a 4-game postponement because of a COVID outbreak. They returned from that with the loss to Purdue, a bad loss last night to Illinois. They have 1 day of rest today, then they host Rutgers tomorrow, and it's just kind of everything that can go wrong is going wrong. I know watching the game last night, Illinois entered on a 2-game losing streak. Talked about a lot of slow starts for the Fighting Illini. Did not see any of that last night from Illinois. They kind of came out firing on all cylinders and kept that pressure on for the duration. So Penn State has a lot working against it right now. 0-5 in Big Ten play, and just kind of trying to put things together right now. I'm trying to get back up to game speed, doing so, with being in such a large deficit, with the conference being so competitive and every game counting. Penn State's just at a difficult point right now.
Absolutely. Kevin, as we're taping this on Wednesday, you're getting ready for the IU game against Iowa. I'm wondering about the Hawkeyes a little bit from the standpoint that there's a lot of talk about Michigan, and rightfully so, 11 straight wins to start the season. They look like one of the top teams in this conference. Minnesota's got a lot of good press. That they're playing great at home. Northwestern had that hot start and have kind of tailed back, but it seems like in all of this, somehow Iowa's gotten lost a little bit. They've been steady. They've been consistent. How good are the Hawkeyes, and how big a problem are they for the rest of the conference?
Well, I think with Iowa, you just start with the National Player of the Year, Luka Garza. And when you have that and can build around that, I think that's, kind of the key to everything. And that's why they're off to the start that they're off to, and 6-1. But they've got a lot around them. They've got a lot of shooting. They've got a lot of athleticism. Joe Wieskamp, CJ Frederick, Bahanen is back. So I think that, they're a fairly complete offensive team. The big question with Iowa is, can they get the stops when they're going to need it in crunch time? But I would expect, them in Michigan, it's kind of looking like that those two will be kind of going neck and neck here. And we'll see if, teams like Wisconsin and Illinois can get back in it. I think those are two other teams that from a talent and experience perspective, probably can challenge those two for the Big Ten title. But there's still a lot of basketball to be played. I like Iowa a lot. I like their offense this year. I like the fact that you have Garza, senior, and that even looks better than he did last year. So I think they're going to be there come March. And, Archie Miller just said on his Zoom call, national title contender, and I tend to agree with that. Definitely a Final Four contender.
Mm-hmm. Elton, you mentioned Illinois earlier. You got a little bit of a close look at them against Penn State this week. The Illini have been kind of up and down. I know you were really high on them in the preseason. What's your take on their status right now?
I think they go as far as Kofi Coburn takes them. They were kind of mentioning, a lot of the things that he brings to the table with his size, his physicality. They just said that one of the things that they question at the next level is seeing him put it together defensively. He did well doing that last night. Had a couple of just monster blocks. Really controlled the really controlled down there in the paint. Had 13 rebounds, 21 points, and just did his thing. But I think with Ayo Dosunmu, you've got a guy like Tim Frazier who's coming on really hot. I think they're just well-rounded. And if they can, one of the things that has plagued them, in those slip-ups that they've had this season were the slow starts. But if they can play consistently for two halves, I'm not saying that they're on the Michigan or Iowa level. I kind of have to, scale back those expectations. But I think they have a good chance as anyone else to make noise in the conference. I think that they've established themselves in being in that upper rung of teams. And I think that the game that they played last knows what they're capable of when everyone's playing their role and they're playing consistently for 40 minutes.
That's definitely going to be a team to look forward to. One of the things that we are still keeping an eye on, I feel like, Kevin, we talk to you about this in some form or another every week, but the Big Ten tournament, now there's some talk, not going to happen in Chicago, but maybe bring it to Indianapolis, get a head start on the NCAA tournament. What have you heard about that, and what are the chances that the Big Ten tournament is saved and played at Bankers Life Fieldhouse this year?
Yeah, there's some rumblings, and I think there'll be a determination by early February as to whether they're going to do it or not. But if they do it, it does make sense to be in Indianapolis for the sole reason of, getting a head start on that bubble. You can have teams that stay down there that can get tested, and they wouldn't be traveling back and forth. And, the NCAA also released some dates and venues as far as its tournament too this week. And, you'll have some first four games at Mackey Arena and Assembly Hall. That will be interesting on March 18th. And the other interesting aspect, I think, is, the prime time windows for the Elite Eight games, playing them on Monday and Tuesday night. That's something that's a little different. And then you'll have all the Sweet 16 games having their own television windows over the weekend. It'll be interesting to see if the NCAA extends that beyond this year. This was obviously, because of the COVID schedule, an excuse to kind of try that out. And if it's successful from a TV rating standpoint, maybe it's something that they continue into future years.
Yeah, we were talking at the top of the show about COVID. We talked a little bit before we got going there too. I know you said Penn State just got their results back from the athletic department returning to school. We've seen a couple girls programs already call it a year. Where are we? How big of a problem is this virus still for college basketball?
It's still prevalent. I think, a lot of the health experts predicted kind of an uptick cases after the holiday season with just everyone kind of gathering. I think we're kind of seeing that come to light now. I know the schools are doing the best they can with kind of keeping everyone corralled and in their respective bubbles, but it's inevitable that, some cases are going to seep through. A couple hours ago, Penn State released its latest COVID-19 update, 16 players, which is, if my math is correct, I think the highest total that we've had in, I believe since they started releasing these numbers. What we know of today, no games have been postponed. I know that we talked about basketball's issue with COVID and the nearly month-long pause. Penn State wrestling season was supposed to begin last week at Rutgers on Saturday. A couple of COVID-19 positives in the program, postponed that match. So they're going to try to get started here again on Sunday with Michigan State coming to town. But it's, we're at its mercy right now. I think if you look at it, across the landscape, I think the teams and the leagues have done well with managing everything. It's inevitable that we're going to have some postponements and stuff, but I think they're making it work as best as they can, and they're playing more games than they're not. So it'll be interesting to see, if they can kind of keep that stuff intact, and heading into the March Madness down there in the Hoosier State.
Yeah, what's interesting too is Nebraska and Michigan State men's basketball both on pause this week, and Indiana was supposed to play a game against Michigan State on Sunday that is going to be moved at some point. And that's going to be interesting to see, too, how they kind of schedule and make up some of these games coming down the pike, too. I know Penn State has a bunch of games that are going to have to be made up, et cetera. But I think the way they built the schedule, they built it for kind of some gaps in February and March. So hopefully that'll work out, and we'll see. If I think if every team can get through 20 conference games, that'd be quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Obviously, still a lot of basketball to be played, a lot of storylines to follow. Thanks a lot, guys, for your time this week. We'll check back with you again next week.
Take care.
All right, thank you.
Thanks again to Elton and Kevin. You can follow Elton and the Penn State Nittany Lions at EHDC12. You can follow Kevin and the Indiana Hoosiers at Kevin Brockway G1. And now it's time for a national perspective with Clay Horning. Welcome back to our weekly spot with our national sports columnist, Clay Horning. And Clay, we saw an interesting sight in New Orleans this weekend. Two of the best quarterbacks in the NFL going at it head-to-head. Looks like it's going to be the final game for Drew Brees. Afterwards, he and Tom Brady kind of hang out on the field after the game. Tom Brady's playing around, throwing passes to Drew Brees' kids. It's interesting because I think there's levels of greatness in sports. We were kind of talking about this before we taped. It's hard to imagine too many athletes who have meant more to the franchise they play for, the city they play in, than Drew Brees has meant to the Saints in the city of New Orleans. Would you agree?
I would agree with that, and I think he even he doesn't. I'm pretty sure he lives like in the city, not in the suburbs. But yeah, when I saw that, my thought was, okay, there goes maybe the greatest quarterback of all time, but I think the other guy, who's on the short list, I mean, it was maybe among the top 10 quarterbacks of all time. But I think the other guy has something that Tom Brady does not have. He has a reverence in his city, and he's an icon in a place. And like Brady might be like a national icon of sorts, but Brees has something in New Orleans that Brady can't have because he left New England, and maybe that he could never have because it was always him and Bill Belichick, where it wasn't just him. But I find it fascinating, and really this all goes back, and we didn't talk about this before we started, when Kevin Durant chose to go to Golden State. It's always strange what really connects, but I wrote something that exploded in page views where I was saying he'll never get the most exalted status that an athlete can receive. And that athlete probably wins a title, maybe two, but he fights the good fight for one city and one team, and the whole way. Maybe he plays somewhere else and then comes there early in his career and stays there forever, or maybe he's just there forever. But it's just, I don't know, it's wildly fascinating to me. And I tried to, in the column I'm trying to put together, I ask who has the greatest career in team professional sports who sort of has the most reverence attached to him. And I came up with Bill Russell, not just because he won 11 titles in 13 seasons. I think that's right. But because he did it all the same place, and he didn't, go be not quite as good somewhere else at the end of his career, and there's, Joe Montana is perhaps right next to Brady, maybe, although I still like Elway, and Elway spent his entire career in Denver. But Montana will probably not get a statue outside of wherever the 49ers are playing right now, because he's just not connected in the same way he would be if he'd always been there. And it's kind of fun to bop around and think of, the people we're talking about. And I think of Ozzie Smith in St. Louis. I think of, oh Christ, I just had another one off. Oh shoot. Well, I mean, how about Derek Jeter in New York? But A-Rod has no home. Think of Mario Lemieux in Pittsburgh, if I didn't mention that already. So it's just sort of cool. It's an interesting thing.
No, there's no doubt. I mean, Tony Gwynn with the Padres.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right. And I think Tony Gwynn's one where they didn't win a title, but they went to a couple World Series. There is a statue out there of him. He's synonymous with the city of San Diego. He's passed on, and he's still maybe the most beloved athlete in that city. I look around. Reggie Miller here in Indianapolis has that sort of statue.
There you go. And
forever.
Peyton Manning, I have to presume that though Peyton Manning is loved because he's such a swell guy, he still went to Denver, and it's not the same. So I don't know.
The Colts got blamed for that more than he did. He wins that argument. And
Brett Favre could have been that guy in Green Bay, but I think he really destroyed it his own self. When they decided, oh no, you need to move on because we can't wait on you forever. But anyway, it's cool. And who am I? What? Like Brees has that. Oh yeah. Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. I mean, he will. It's crazy, but he will end up being the more exalted guy. Well, presuming he doesn't spend his last 3 seasons trying to revitalize, the 3 seasons of his career trying to revitalize the Bengals or something. So anyway, yeah, and we're sort of, and especially in football, we've got a lot of guys like that we can consider.
Yeah, and I think with Rodgers, I think that's where the rest of this season plays into that. If he goes and gets another Super Bowl ring, it's going to be even more. I think he's going to be a Green Bay icon no matter what.
Yeah.
He gets another title, it's going to be another level for him.
How about this? How about he could actually be in front of both Favre and Bart Starr?
It's crazy.
I mean, Starr won 2 Super Bowls, but he did it by handing the ball off to somebody. I mean, he didn't, And so, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. And I wonder how much longer he can play. But he doesn't. I mean, he seems to have all of his games still. So
he's not slowing down yet. That's for sure. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I know Philip Rivers just retired, 16 years with the Chargers, but he's got that one last year with the Colts. I don't know if that'll keep him. I know that San Diego really has a special place in their heart for him as well, because he kind of stayed loyal to San Diego even when the Chargers didn't.
And it's like when I look at them on the levels, he fought the good fight in San Diego forever, but they never won. And I don't know if you can pin that on him. Probably can't. But they never really won. So yeah, I mean, it takes titles. Also, I'm trying to think of like a long-term scrub, that would not get that sort of it's funny. Like Bill Bates in Cowboy, special teams specialist. Well, everybody's got a soft spot in their heart for him in Dallas, and so his drinks are probably free in the Metroplex. But I mean, come on, he's not Michael Irvin. He's who did spend his entire career in Dallas. Yes, he never went anywhere else.
I think he did stay in Dallas the whole time.
And Emmitt Smith went
Cardinals,
and Aikman. And Aikman was there the whole time, though I make a case that Aikman is not a transcendent quarterback. He's sort of in the Hall of Fame the same way I think Terry Bradshaw's in the Hall of Fame. He was a quarterback on Super Bowl teams, but he was not asked to do it himself.
Right.
So, yeah.
He had a lot of weapons. I think Steve Tasker falls into that kind of category. You're talking about a
Well,
guy,
that's a good one.
cult hero there, but nationally maybe not quite the same kind of a reputation.
That's right. Yeah. All right. We've settled that.
Well, I think that was a good conversation. I feel good about where we're at there. I'll tell you what, Clay, I know we got a lot going on. We're going to have a Super Bowl coming up soon. We're going to have spring training, believe it or not, right around the corner. Racing season's getting ready to go. I'm sure we're going to have plenty to talk about in weeks to come. Thanks a lot for your time this week. We'll check in with you again next week.
All right. We'll see you. Thanks.
Thanks as always to our national columnist. You can follow him at Clay Horning. And thanks again to all of you. We'll take you inside the game again next week.